Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. Hopefully you can hear us. Please let us know if you can or can't. I know you couldn't hear the theme music that was supposed to be playing because I had it muted because I'm a professional. But anyways, hello and welcome. We are doing something a little bit different, something probably don't see streamed very often, and I'm super excited about it. But before we get into all of that and me geeking out, let's go ahead and do some quick introductions for our cast for the evening. We will start alphabetically, as is only right and proper. Take it away, please.
Hi, my name's AJ, or at AJ the Sparky, she, they. I am playing Cavalry, or Alexis. She is an ex-Mountie and retired Army officer who gained superpowers.
Yay, superpowers.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jade, she, they, and I am playing Madeline Hart, or Mads for short. And she is a neuroscientist who has been possessed by a alien AI in her brain implant.
Hi, I'm Kay of the She and They Variete. I will be playing Sport, he, him, a sort of self-made independent paramilitary asset.
Hi, my name's Keegan. I'll be playing Alex Gregory, also known as Stasis, given temporal powers through some unknown means currently. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of all the different character concepts. I think they're going to interact and overlap and diverge in very, very interesting ways. But anyways, hi, my name is Ben. I'm the narrator. I'm the person that's going to be coming up with all the evil schemes, devious plots, and dastardly villains for our heroes to face. Welcome to All on the Table. This is one of the first streams being run on this new Twitch channel, which is an offshoot of the Transverse. Please feel free to check them out as well here on Twitch if you're curious about what they do. This is also an offshoot of the Vigilantes Union universe, the V universe as we are branding it, because it's so much easier to say that than Vigilantes Union universe, which gets a little bit awkward. The Vigilantes Union, or V Universe, is a superhero game that got its start on the Transverse / All on the Table. I think a couple of months ago at this point. There's a few episodes out on the Transverse YouTube channel. And the kind of flagship series is called Vigilantes Union Local 13, which features a group of superheroes that are members of a superhero union in the city of Portland, Oregon. Tonight, though, tonight we get to launch an offshoot, a secondary, no, not a secondary, that doesn't sound right either, an expansion to the V universe. And this is going to be focusing on a group of heroes that are not members of a union. They're not anti-union, they're just not union members as of the start of the series. We'll see what happens with that. This is taking place in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. As such, the group is working title known as the Philly Five. And yes, I realize there are 4 heroes right now. The 5th one can't be here at the moment, so just roll with it. It's the Philly eventually will be 5, currently 4, but that's way too long for a title. So, Kashra, hi, hello, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Lies already, yes, exactly. Also, thank you very much, Great Cthulhu, regular-sized mom, for following. We definitely appreciate that, especially because we are still a new baby nascent channel. Anybody else who would be kind enough to follow us, we would greatly appreciate that as well. I will try to keep track of it, but sometimes I lose focus, so if you do follow and I miss it, thank you in advance. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about the game itself. This is by far my favorite superhero RPG in existence. It might even be my favorite RPG. I'm not quite sure. It's tied with a couple others. But as far as superhero games go, Marvel Superhero Adventures game, or Marvel Saga, which is a much more pithy and concise title, is awesome. It's fantastic. It's great. It's perfect. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It's a card-based system, so anytime I ask our players, our cast, our heroes, to perform an action or to do something, they are going to be playing a card from their hand in order to try and succeed. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that's basically it. You take the number on the card, you add it to a stat on your character sheet, whichever stat I ask for, and your total is how good a job you do. That determines whether or not you succeed. So we're going to start off by drawing cards, and we're going to go... we did introductions in order of out of character name. We're going to do card draws in alphabetical order of character name, just to keep things confusing and to keep everybody on their toes. It's pretty straightforward here. We're just going to go down the line, starting up here with Cavalry. We'll be skipping Chimera because Chimera can't be here tonight, and then we'll go Mad Hacker, Sport, and Stasis. So everybody's got a certain number of cards they're supposed to be drawing. You should know how many that is, but if you don't remember as a player, let me know. But go ahead and draw your cards, put them in your box. Once they're in the previous player's box and that player says they're done, next person can go.
All right. Good to go?
Oh, yes. AJ, have you played the Dragonlance Saga system?
No, but when I was looking into this when you first mentioned it, I looked into both.
Yes. That one was first and was clunkier. I think it had 7 different suits to try to keep track of.
I didn't look too much into it. I just know that TSR fixed it, streamlined it, and Marvel Saga used the used the system after it was fixed.
Yes, yeah. And sadly, TSR was bought out by Wizards of the Coast right around that time, and so the line just didn't get picked up for support. Cavalry, if you want to go ahead and draw your cards, I believe you get... Oh, perfect, you're already on it.
4.
I see them appearing as we speak. So for our audience, we'll talk a little bit about the cards as they're drawn. You can see that the cards all have a few different characteristics or features to them. First off is the number. That's the most obvious thing. That number is the value of the card. That's the number you're going to add to your stat when you attempt an action. I think Cavalry's done. Mad Hacker, or Mads, you can go next. So the value of the card is kind of the most obvious thing. The next most obvious thing is typically the color. That is the suit of the card. So you can see here that Cavalry has 3 green cards and 1 red card. They are color-coded by suit. Green cards are strength cards, red cards are agility cards, blue cards are intellect cards, and purple cards are willpower cards. You also get black or gray bordered cards that are doom cards, and we shouldn't see too many of those coming up in the game at all, except, oh, hi, Mads.
We just drew 2.
Starting off with 2 doom cards. That makes me, as the narrator, happy. I'll explain why when the first one gets played, just so we're not front-loading too much information up at the beginning. Let's see here. Anybody? Nope. Okay. Next, we got sport drawing. Okay, so there's like I said, you've got the green for strength, the red for agility, you've got the blue for intellect, and the purple for willpower. You've also got, for those of you who may not see colors as kind of according to the commonly accepted color patterns, I know, I don't think color blindness is the right term. If it isn't, I apologize. I don't mean to be offensive. I just realized I don't know if there's a more modern term. But if you don't see colors particularly well or the same as everyone else, you can also look in the upper left corner next to the value of the card, and there is a character that will portray that particular suit. So for green, for strength, you've got the Hulk. For red, agility, you've got Spider-Man. For blue or intellect, you've got Mr. Fantastic. And for purple or willpower, you've got Doctor Strange. And then, of course, for the Doom cards, you have the man, the myth, the legend, none other than Doctor Doom himself. So those are kind of the big things that are going to be important for players right off the bat. When you play a card, if I say I need you to do a strength action to, break open a door, then you play any card in your hand. It doesn't have to be a strength card. So, for example, I'm going to pick someone at random, just whoever's character sheet happens to be on the top of my pile, and that is Sport. So if we were to look at Sport's character sheet, I'm actually going to pull up Sport's character sheet so everybody can see Sport's character sheet. I'm going to try to pull up Sport's character sheet so everybody can see Sport's character sheet. No, not going to. Okay. Well, Roll20 is not cooperating with me on that, so I'm going to pull up a different character sheet, and we will do that. So let's see. Here we go. Everybody should now be able to see the character sheet for a character named Biome, who is a hero used in a previous live stream on the channel for an extraterrestrial space sci-fi adventure. But there are a number of different stats. So you've got the 4 stats that correspond with the suits: strength, intellect, agility, willpower. All the powers are color-coded by suit as well. Let's see. There we go. That's where you want things. Okay. So if I said I need Biome to do a strength action, the Biome's player would play a card from their hand, add it to the 4 on their sheet, and whatever their total is their score. Sport being difficult. Not surprising, let's be honest. Actually, I have to say, Sport is probably going to be one of the least difficult characters.
Yeah, he's probably the most amiable member of this group.
Exactly. The one most likely to be like, hey, I need you to go do this. Okay, yeah, I'll go do that.
Okay.
But anyways, so you add this value of the card to the stat. The difficulty ladder is in increments of 4. So generally speaking, aiming for the next increment of 4 is what you're going to be doing. So if your strength is a 4, at the very least you want to try to get up to an 8 or a 12 or a 16. So you can play any card from your hand to do any action, but if you play a card of the appropriate suit, you get what we call a boost, or some people consider it kind of it's an exploding die, if you're familiar with that mechanic. But basically what that means is if I say do a strength action and you play a strength card, which cavalry is going to be particularly good at, then you would play that card and then you would draw the top card of the deck and you would add that card to your total. If that card is also of the correct suit, so in this case if it's also a strength card, you would then draw the next card, and you keep doing that until you get a card that isn't a strength card. You add them all together, add in your stat, and that's your total. There are a couple other mechanics. We're not going to necessarily go into them at the moment. That's just the basic kind of bare bones that you need to know to play the game. So yeah. Now, having done the quick explanation, thank you all very much for bearing with me through that. We're going to go ahead and we are going to So I'm in the basement of my house, which is all brick and stone. It's a very solid house. And I just heard and felt a crack of thunder upstairs. So if all of a sudden I lose power, we'll know why. But also, Thor is angry, apparently, because if I heard that through my noise-canceling headphones in the basement of my house, it was a big one. Anyways, not letting ourselves get distracted by Thor's presence, let's go ahead and kick off, shall we? So, when last we left our heroes, because we did a little pre-adventure to kind of get things warmed up, some of them had responded to a bit of a crisis in Camden. There was a small neighborhood where a number of police reports came in reporting some strange creature or villain or imposing, scary figure supposedly abducting a woman. We cut in on the action with Sport and Stasis facing down the strange bad guy, and Cavalry, not in the same building, actually outside the building in sort of like a marshy area out back, chasing down another villain. Actually, the woman that was supposedly abducted turns out to possibly be an accomplice or a fellow villain of some sort. Kashra confirms super big lightning happening. Okay. Well, hopefully the cats are okay. By the way, Kashra is my wife. Hello, my love. So if I get smoochy-faced at Kashra, then don't be offended, everybody else. That I'm not singling her out at... well, I guess I am, but for good reason. I only get smoochy-faced with everybody else if you decide to subscribe to the Twitch channel. I probably shouldn't put that out into the ether, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, no, Kashra, please feel free to chat. That's why we're here. We're happy to interact. So, I believe when last we left, why the camera's not working?
Oh, cameras have disappeared.
Yes, they have. I don't understand why. Okay, I have to go and turn each of them back on one by one, apparently. Pardon me, everybody. Apologies for the hassle. I don't know why it's doing that. Luckily, it's not making me reframe everything. It's remembering the way I had it before. So that's a nice little... You know, it could have been worse. It could have been worse. So, all right, we're finally back. Apparently Thor was unhappy that we were not including him in this particular superhero universe, but it is what it is. He's got his own thing going on. So, hello and welcome back. Apologies for the disruption. As I was saying, the heroes had been in a little scuffle with a bad guy by the name of Stranglehold. I don't know if I informed everybody of the villain's name. And another villain by the name of Vitriol. So I'll let you figure out which one is which for the time being, but that'll become apparent here momentarily. So we have a narrator card out. It is a 6. It is a negative card, negative aura, and the event is Uncharted Waters. That will be... Both of those things will become relevant in time. But first off, where we're going to start is... I think Vitriol, the villain that Cavalry is currently facing off against, is again going to try and escape. And I'm actually going to pull the Uncharted Waters event in here because that's what they're there for, and I think it makes things more interesting. I am going to say that Cavalry, being as you are not as familiar with the area, you are going to be at an increased difficulty to chase Vitriol down if that's what you decide to do. That being said, we're going to then jump back over to the other side of things, and we're going to talk about Stranglehold. Stranglehold is a fairly straightforward kind of bruiser-style villain. Stranglehold is going to try and grab... Let's see, which of our heroes does it make more sense for? You know what? Stranglehold's probably going to go for Sport. Sport looks more consistently corporeal. And so I think that's going to drive Stranglehold's decision making. So he's going to try to grab hold of Sport in his weird tendril tongue, like throat tendril, throat thing, whatever it is, and that's what they're planning on doing this turn. I am going to need to ask what Sport, what Stasis, and what Cavalry are planning to do, sort of in general, not necessarily specifically in reaction to the action that the villains are taking, more just what are you trying to accomplish this turn?
My goal when we last left off, I wanted to try and plan and use my, well, I guess stats it's a whip, but in reality it's my lasso.
Okay.
Which I believe is lightning imbued.
It is, yes.
And it has ensnarement. My goal was to just try and catch Vitriol with that in high-speed chase, because we're both doing lightning speed. And if I remember correctly, they also don't have water walking.
That is correct, yes.
Where I do.
Yes.
And we're in a marsh, and I remember that helped me catch up quite a bit.
It did, yes. However, it does seem like Vitriol knows this area a little bit better than you do. So that's where the Uncharted Waters event is going to come in.
Yeah.
But okay, so you're basically trying to lasso Vitriol.
Correct.
So we'll come back to that. But it's good to know that's what you want to do. Sport and Stasis, what do the two of you want to do against Stranglehold? Lots of S names, I'm realizing, in this particular altercation, but that's just the way it is.
An SE group. I think Sport is going to try and use their ability to control others' emotions to instill sort of lethargy and absence into them. Kind of all that willpower and desire is just gonna fade into nothing.
Okay, all right. That's fair. What about sport?
Or just win.
Or sorry, I mean stasis. Too many S names.
I know. I don't. Were previous actions being held from the preview?
Yeah, if you remember exactly what
All right.
stasis was doing, let me know.
Yeah. Well, he put corrosion on Stranglehold. That hasn't come up yet, but also
Oh, that is a good
probably
point.
trying
Yes.
to chip away, since Stranglehold seems to be very aggressive currently.
And let's see, you have a... Oh, that's right, I should have made note of that. We're going to call it... Yeah, that sounds right. I think he had like 8 or 9 points of corrosion that he had to contend with. So that is going to actually affect him. Okay, I actually did make note of his health. So he was at 12, and then I'm going to discard one of the corrosion cards. That's going to be an additional 5. So he's at 7. He's got another actually, but okay, so this actually is going to come into handy. Sorry for intruding on what you were doing, but you reminded me of that very important detail. So a negative aura draw is bad for the heroes, good for the bad guys. What that means is that the villains are going to heal for an amount of health equal to whatever the card intensity is. So Stranglehold is going to heal for 6 points of health. If the card aura comes up, or the narrator card aura comes up as a positive card, like on the Impossible Man card here in Mads' hand, if that had been the narrator card, then the heroes would heal. They would basically draw a card back if they were down a card. If it comes up as neutral, nobody heals unless they have the regeneration power, like Sport does. Silver Lion Prime, hello, welcome. Yes, Marvel Saga, best superhero game ever. All right, so having talked about the healing situation real quick, apologies for interrupting you, Stasis. Please finish what you were saying.
And then just continue chipping away in some fashion, or
Okay.
stopping him if possible.
Are you basically kind of standing there concentrating on the corrosion, or are you? How would you like to stop him? I guess is my question.
I guess knocking him out.
Okay.
But because my
So-
understanding of the game is very limited, I'm trying to figure out mechanics of it all.
No problem. So, in order to knock him out, you I know this is going to sound super obvious, but you need to deal damage.
Yeah.
The kind of the limit for your character, that non-corporeal hindrance that your character has, means you have a strength of 0. So knocking somebody out directly is a little bit difficult. You sort of have to use the time control thing to affect things most of the time, like to have a direct effect on another person.
Sure.
So there are a couple things that you could do. One, I would say that you can double up on the corrosion. You can try to hit him with another corrosion action. You can use time control to speed up the corrosion that's already on him, so that damage gets applied immediately rather than waiting until the next turn. And that just kind of means that you are whittling him down a little bit faster.
Right.
You can use time control to... I mean, there are a couple things you can do with time control that basically effectively would be like sort of freezing Stranglehold in time for a moment to make it easier for Sport to deliver a bit of a a slug, or in this case, gives Sport more time to calm Stranglehold down. You've also got your teleportation with the displacement stunt, so you could always try switching places with Stranglehold to disorient him and kind of throw him off, make it less likely that he's able to hit Sport with his attack. It's a fantastic one. It's actually a Fantastic Four. Oh wow, nice.
That's me.
Good job, AJ. Try power stunting a stun attack by temporal dysfunction. Yep, exactly. Phasing him out of time for a millisecond. That's exactly what I was suggesting. Basically, when it comes to powers, it's something that we haven't really touched on too much because everybody's still fairly new and I was trying not to overload people. You can look at your powers and say, I think it's reasonable that my power can do this thing, which isn't specifically defined within the power description.
Sure.
That's fine. I'm happy to be open to things like that. And basically, you can develop a stunt, the same as the stunts you took when you're doing character creation, spontaneously. It's very difficult. You have to get a fairly high action score to do it, and that does scale with your power intensity. Because the stronger something is, the harder it is to sort of fine-tune it into this very specific, narrow side use that you're trying to do. So you've got options. If you want to go with something a little bit more achievable, corrosion might be the way to go. If you want to go with something that's a little bit more out there and kind of really is stretching the boundaries of your powers, you can do that too. Really, it comes down to sort of your imagination in the moment and what you want to directly accomplish. If really what you want to do is to continue whittling him down and dealing damage, corrosion is probably your best bet. It's going to take him a minute, but if you apply another corrosion attack on your next turn, you can use time control to speed that up so that it hits kind of all at once rather than kind of that drip effect that it would normally have.
Sure. Okay. That all sounds good. I don't know if I'm trying to murder him or anything. He'll probably be fine, right?
Yeah, that's the great thing about this being a comic book thing, is that technically everything you do is non-lethal unless you specify otherwise.
Okay, cool.
So if you say you want to melt him into a puddle of goo and kill him, we'll have to have a conversation about that, but otherwise it's assumed that you are just trying to knock him out and discourage him from fighting.
Incapacitate him for the cops to deal with.
Exactly. Hello, Stolen Fires. Yes, we are nerds. Nerd goo. Wait, no, that doesn't strike that. Let's edit that out.
Strike that from the record, please.
Exactly.
1 second.
So yeah. All right, and so now that everybody's kind of declared what they actually, let me make sure that I got Stasis's declared action. You're gonna hit Stranglehold with another corrosion. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So now that everybody's kind of declared what their actions are, everything happens kind of simultaneously. So we're going to resolve card play and everything like that. However, the action is going to cut away for a split second from the fight, and it's going to focus on the crowd. It's going to be a little aerial kind of inset panel that seems very incongruous with the very action-oriented pages that we are focused on. And this aerial view is going to be focusing on Mads, who is kind of standing in the crowd at the edges of the police cordon that are kind of where people are kind of pressing in, trying to see what's going on at this little deli/grocery store that is located in kind of a weird spot in Camden. It's kind of right on the edge of this marsh that's right on the edge of the river. And there's a roundabout in front of it, and it's not in a neighborhood per se. It's there's a few blocks on either side where there's no other buildings. It's just this weird marsh. Mads, go ahead. Actually, I should have asked everybody to do this, but there's a reason that I haven't. I'll ask everybody else to be describing their characters momentarily. Mads, why don't you go and describe your character as she appears in the crowd, and what's she doing?
She's really upset because she just wanted to get a ribbon from the deli, and yeah, so she's just kind of waiting. She's looking around to see what's going on, and I guess just how I'm dressed up today will make that what Mads looks like. Um, to make it easy and instead of trying to come up with too much more of a description than that.
Okay. So fairly low key, kind of
She's
subtle, like black
yeah,
T-shirt.
yeah. I mean, it's actually a black dress in this
thank you,
case,
thank you.
and can't see that, and yeah, she was just kind of like, "Do we have a time of day? Is she on her way home, or
It's like
I don't know."
evening time.
Yeah, so she's just on her way home from the computer repair shop where she's got her little hideout while she's like hiding from bad people, and wanted to grab a sandwich. Kind of upset about it, but now is intrigued about what's going on.
Okay. Mads is just part of the crowd at the moment. So we're gonna cut back, and I'm gonna have everybody basically plays the cards for their actions for the turn. I'm gonna have you describe your character briefly. So we're gonna go in arbitrary order. We're going to start with cavalry because cavalry is kind of off by themselves and did not has already kind of declared, but hasn't had the chance to take the spotlight for a minute. So we're gonna cut back to cavalry. You're trying to lasso vitriol, which is going to be a
agility, I believe.
Yeah. So the lasso is the agility skill, is the agility suit. It's kind of a weird thing because whip. It's falling under the whip skill, which is a strength card, but this is an agility action because that makes way more sense to me.
Yeah, I believe you changed the rules for that for me.
Yeah, exactly. So you have the whip's skill, which will give you the bonus for having the correct skill, but this will be based on agility. So go ahead and give me an agility action if you would, please.
Yes. So the 8 means I just had 8 to the total, right? For my lasso, lightning, ensnarement.
Yes. So that is the you're actually going to be using that as your base stat rather than your agility in this case.
Yeah.
So that is the intensity, the power, and that's what you're going to be using as your base number.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to play my agility card I have on me on top of that for another card off the top, which is just another 1.
All right.
So that's a 17.
17,
I believe.
Right. I'm going to take these cards. I'm just going to pop them up here for the moment. This is the only limitation with doing this on Roll20 is that the table space is a little bit limited, so just bear with me, everybody. But yeah, so we'll keep your cards up there for the moment. That is for your action. Your counter action or your defensive action, if there is going to be one, will be a separate card play. So don't draw any cards back. Just leave that where it is for now. And please go ahead and describe cavalry.
So I guess remember what happened last panel. I guess cavalry just like riding. So currently she has a spectral hand. Her eyes are. She's wearing a pair of like gold tint aviators, but behind them is like a green spectral glow, and like an old World War One. I want to say kettle helmet, but that's Brody helmet. That's what I'm looking for. With short cropped light brown hair, and wearing kind of like standard biker gear with leather boots that have leather cowboy boots with spurs on the back. Riding a partially skeletal, partially spectral, partially just pure white horse. And she's in this high-speed chase, like, we're talking like Quicksilver Flash high speed, through this marsh, taking shots back and forth. She just pulled back and almost Akira slided under, I think it was a big corrosive puddle.
Yeah, it was like a big, like high-pressure arc of some sort of acidic fluid,
Yeah, she pulled, like, I call it the Red Dead slide, because in Red Dead Online, you can just drift your horse around. She just does that. And with her spectral hand currently, she has a carbine repeater in her hand, like Old West style. And currently, when she's going to try and lasso vitriol, this like antimatter weapon, or I guess Dark Force is what it's called in Marvel, disappears and turns to a crackling lightning whip or lasso. and she's gonna fling that at Vitriol currently after doing your good old. I guess you can't see my hands on the camera, can you? But like doing your
Yeah.
yeah, the traditional cowboy twirl and throw.
Okay. I imagine that were this intended to be a live or like motion medium rather than a comic book, the evasive maneuvers on Bonaparte, which is Cavalry's horse's name, would start out sounding like a tire squeal, but would kind of like fade into like a ghostly like horse's neighing, like that kind of like echoes across the marsh. Man, now I wish I had a sound effect for that. That'd be really cool. And then there's like a
tire squeal.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a crackle of electricity, and then like there's probably a faint like rumble of thunder as you release the lasso, and it goes like arcing out to try and grab Vitriol. Vitriol, for her part, is running sort of full tilt toward the crowd, and she is so. Vitriol is a very slender woman, almost. Gaunt is probably a better descriptor for her. She has sort of lanky hair, and is wearing a sort of like a rebreather, like face mask type of thing that is sort of, it's very high tech, but it was clearly designed with the elements to kind of vaguely evoke a disjointed, like distended open mouth. And it's got like some high pressure like hoses and like a couple of canisters that are like kind of set into the mask along the jawline and everything like that. It's very clear that the acid that she's spitting is not an innate ability. It's something coming from this mask. Let's see. Yeah. So that's what you see as you're kind of chasing her down. She is going to attempt to dodge out of the way of that. And okay, so that is oh wait, sorry, yours was a 7 plus 8 is a 15?
8 or 6, 7.
7 and 8 is 15, yes. Plus whips is the skill, gives you plus 4, so a 19 actually.
Yeah, I forgot to add the whips.
Okay, perfect. That is important for me to know. Let's see. Look at any horse rider stereotype for cavalry. Yeah, exactly. Silverline Prime just showed up. Awesome. I'm really glad that you showed up. This is our first episode, so welcome. Cashray used to think cavalry and cavalry were the same thing. That someone just didn't know how to spell cavalry right. Imagine my disappointment. Yeah, exactly. I definitely fell into that for a long time too. I'd see the word cavalry and be like, why did they misspell that? All right, so we're gonna cut away as the lightning lasso kind of like arcs through the air, like, and speeds towards Vitriol to see whether or not you're able to grab her. We're going to cut back to inside the store. Sport, you are going to try and basically get Stranglehold to calm the heck down. Actually, not even calm down.
Apathy.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of just be like, this isn't worth my time type of thing. Fun anecdote. That reminds me of an incident I had in high school where there was another kid that was like really trying hard to like give me a hard time, like bully me and everything like that. And I remember kind of like getting all like ready to get in his face, and I kind of just was like, man, I'm actually really just not feeling it today. Can we do this another time? And it so totally took the wind out of his sail that like he never bothered me again. It was just so I think I feel what Stranglehold is feeling right now in this moment. I mean, it's just like, you know what? I just don't think I have the emotional energy for it. All right, so that is going to be an emotion control action from Sport. Which is a willpower-based power. There you go. Play into your cards. I like it. So that is going to explode. Let you draw another card from the deck and add it to that total. All right. So we're looking at a 5 and a 4 for 9, plus your emotion control of
My emotion control is a 10.
All right, so that is a 19. Okay. You don't have a skill to apply, so it will remain at a 19. But let's be honest, that's pretty good. I. All right, yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? This isn't the way this would normally work, but I'm going to play it this way anyways, because I think it makes sense. I'm going to say that the remaining card value he has for his corrosion, like the corrosion from last turn, is going to play into his willpower defense, because it's hard to be apathetic and not really care when you're literally like rotting from something that somebody just did to you.
That's fair.
I don't think it's going to make a difference. So that's a 16, and he doesn't have any relevant skills. So yes, even despite the fact that he is actively rotting, like from the, like he's not rotting. He's more like his muscles are kind of atrophying, and he's looking a little bit more like emaciated, because it's sort of like a necrotic, decaying touch, but it's sort of time and age based. So, it's kind of a weird, power descriptor, but there we are. Okay, he's gonna kind of complain about these gosh darn kids these days, kind of playing into the whole chronometric control that Stasis has going on, and yeah, he's after this attack goes off, he's gonna going into next turn, he's gonna kind of decide to just kind of chill the F out, or at least try to walk away. So that was successful, and I need Stasis to please give me... this is going to be an agility action to lay a hand on Stranglehold, and then, assuming it's successful, we'll apply the amount of damage. So I need an agility action from you, please. This would be using the martial arts skill, which you do have. So.
Well, no agility cards, but let's go ahead and use that.
Okay. 7 plus your agility of...
7.
7, okay, perfect. Plus martial arts. So 14, 18. That is more than enough to grab a hold of him. He's more focused on trying to grab a hold of Sport. So that will be successful. So that's going to be a 20 minus his strength of 13 is 7. Okay. So I'm going to draw some cards here. That's an 8. So that's more than 7. So that's how much damage he will take from that corrosion card going into next turn. That corrosion power is going to be really nasty on people who don't have super strength. That may or may not be a bad thing when you use it on a regular person.
I'm trying to diversify, but right now this is all I understand.
Yeah, and honestly, against a super powered enemy, it's not too bad. I'm just saying, if you were to use that on a regular person, they would waste away into old age and possibly die, with how strong your time control is. So, all right, well, that's a conversation for a future session. The last thing that I'm going to need, actually, I apologize. I need a description from both Sport. Let's start with Sport, since you did the action first. Describe Sport and how he is going about trying to use his power on Stranglehold.
Yeah, so we see Sport, and he's a young man, late teens, early 20s, Caucasian, kind of like a dirty blonde hair, green hazel eyes. He's athletic, like a swimmer's physique. He's got classically handsome, good looks, the kinds that are sort of a bit disarming in a sense. Like, you wouldn't be perturbed if they had come up to you. They kind of, the way I've kind of been phrasing it is they incite the fawn reaction over anything else in people. He is currently wearing just like a white tank top that's probably like a size too small, a pair of plain green fatigues and black boots. Everything is like very neatly placed, and he kind of holds himself with much better posture than I ever will have in my entire life. And he kind of moves with a level of elegance that seems beyond him, but there's a swift fluidity to the way he goes about things that seems very practiced and uniform, but adaptable in its own way. It's quite interesting. I think when we see him evoke this emotion control, we watch as like the tension in the air shifts and his hand kind of parts through air in a sense as we watch as it thickens, and we get like a little like comic panel of like little bits in the air of like, you know, at the molecular level as it sort of goes out and touches upon those around him.
Nice. And Stasis, what about yourself?
Stasis is a thin male figure of about 6 feet, a fractured amalgamation of pieces of himself across the timeline. His consciousness happens to be here currently, so that's good. But like varying pieces of himself from like the 20s to the 60s, different clothing patterns and stuff, and facial hairs constantly changing, head hairs constantly changing, just a very strange looking thing at this point.
It's sort of like a flickering collage of himself from different sort of like different ages.
Yeah.
Now, out of curiosity, this is actually something I was wondering about earlier today. Is this something where like does he occasionally like blink in that he's wearing like something from just a completely different era, like he's wearing chainmail or like a futuristic spacesuit, or is it just stuff within the last or the next like 10 years to kind of fit with the common styles?
I would say like within a natural timeline of his life, not necessarily from different eras.
Okay.
Just like I'd imagine he can only like pull pieces from where he actually is versus where he's being sent.
Okay.
Kind of.
That's fair.
Sounds like he can use cosplay as a hobby. So then he
Yeah.
can snap into it with some.
Come up with some
Bill.
weird stuff. But I don't think any part of it would be large enough to even identify very well, even if it were like the most outlandish thing.
He's got like
aside from
one
like,
sleeve
already-
from like a denim jacket, and then the other's like is just it's like a tank top, so it's missing a sleeve on the other side or something like that. Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, the ne'er-do-well that they are facing down is a very large man, probably about 7 feet tall or so. Very wide shoulders and very muscled. The kind of muscled that like is too muscled. As in it's not natural that this person has so many muscles and is this kind of big and bulky. Looks like a relatively normal human being otherwise, except for the fact that his throat is from the tip of his chin down to basically like the nape of his neck is split and opens sideways. And from that, there is a long, sort of elastic, vaguely slimy tendril or tongue that basically kind of lashes out and can stretch kind of across the room to pick things up and throw things and whatnot. It doesn't seem to cause him any pain. It seems to just be the way things are for him. But not even our heroes know much about him beyond that. So you'll have to discover these things as the players do. But anyways, so he kind of like winces a little bit as more of Stasis is like time control based, like withering effect kind of takes hold, but doesn't stop him from continuing to try to like grab Sport up with this like tendril and basically like smash him into the ground. So, Sport, I am going to need an agility action from you to try to dodge out of the way of that, please.
Ooh, okay, agility.
Yes, like Lifefield's Captain America muscles. Yes, very similar to that, Kashra. Kind of like comics Bane. It's more supernatural / unnatural than Bane would be.
I'm going to play this 7 of Doom.
Okay. Ooh, yes, the first Doom card. Doom card. Doom card. Doom card. Doom card.
I do have acrobatics, which I believe will come into play.
Yes, it will. So the 7 plus 4 from acrobatics plus what's your agility?
Is 6.
6. So 7 plus 6 is 13, plus 4 is 17. That is an excellent number. It is sadly not enough. There is one thing that Stranglehold is good at, and that's grabbing onto people and
getting a
slamming,
stranglehold.
Yeah, exactly, slamming them into things. So that is going to be. That actually does not apply, which is good for you. You got lucky in that regard. So that's going to be. It's going to be 19 points of damage minus whatever your strength or other defenses might be. Let me just take your character sheet. Just strength. So it's going to be 19 minus your strength. After the end of the round, when you draw back up to your full hand of cards, you're going to discard 13 points worth of cards, which is a lot of cards. It's possible Sport might be unconscious temporarily, but we've already established that in the next round, Stranglehold is going to lose interest and decide to just walk away. So it's fine, right?
Or
I'm
give
sure
up.
it's fine.
Who knows? He might just give up.
Yeah, he might just give up. All right, so that's that. That's Stasis doesn't have to dodge. Cavalry was going to have to give chase, but is instead using the lasso to try to grab Vitriol from afar, which is successful. So as we see Sport get caught up in this tongue tendril and like slammed into the ground, and the linoleum kind of cracks, and there's a little kind of shockwave that goes out. We will cut back to Cavalry. The lasso has already been unleashed, and there is a flash of white light before it entangles Vitriol, kind of like tightens with her arms around like at her side. It doesn't actually zap her. It just is meant to entangle her. But at the very least, it seems to have worked. She is caught up reasonably well, at least for now.
Yeah. Now, I remember... I mean, Cavalry does not know this knowledge. I remember you mentioned to, I think it was for last game, that Stranglehold had vulnerability to... No, it was Stasis. Had vulnerability to lightning.
Sorry.
Now, I have no clue if that applies here at all, but...
oh, yes, correct. Stranglehold is susceptible to lightning. Vitriol is not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured I'd just bring it up just in case.
Nope, it's worth asking. I mean, who knows? Maybe they work together. Maybe they've got similar vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. Themed bad guys.
Exactly.
I would never do such a thing. I don't have an entire roster of animal-themed bad guys called the Menagerie in the other game or anything like that. Who does themed bad guys? It's so gauche. Anyways, so Vitriol is bound in this lightning lasso, and everything else is kind of resolved. So we're going to go ahead and take these cards. I'm going to put them down in the discard box. Except for, so I was happy because somebody played me a Doom card. So, for those of you who don't know, whenever a player plays a Doom card from their hand for an action, that card goes to me as the narrator, and I get to just kind of tuck it over here and make use of it. I'm just going to it's going to be slightly off camera, or off panel, just so that it's not taking up too much space. But I'm going to be able to use that against the heroes in some capacity later on. So it'll work out great. It'll make for some good cinema. Let's see. He lay there like a slug. It was his only defense. Yeah, exactly. Also, I think we had somebody else that's Taki Productions. Yes, hello, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Ouch, big ouch. People can recover. Like old dads yelling at the sports team to do the other thing, but wholesome. All right. The superhero team named Menagerie. My friends all played. Nice. It's a good word. Okay, so having checked the chat real quick, we are going to jump back into the action. Cavalry, go ahead and draw your card back first. It looks like you need one to replace one.
Yeah.
And then Sport, you'll draw 2 cards. Man, Cavalry is really, really strong today. Really feeling the physicality. Sport, go ahead and draw 2 cards. And hoping for a high card, and darn, okay. Well, that's all right. And then Stasis, it looks like you're going to need 1 card. All right. So everybody's drawn cards back. The narrator card is going to get discarded. We're going to draw another card to go into... Oh, wait, actually, before we do that, Sport, I'm very sorry. You do need to discard 13 points worth of cards from your hand.
So that's all of it.
That is all of your cards, which means Sport is unconscious as Sport gets slammed into the floor.
Well, does regeneration kick in?
So not at the end of the last round, it will this round, and I was about to talk about that.
Okay.
But there is a brief second where Sport is, like, out. All right, so now going into the next round, we're going to draw a new narrator card. So it is a neutral card. Normally, nobody would heal on that, but Sport has regeneration of... What
7.
is it? 7, okay. So Sport has regeneration 7 as one of his superpowers. So what that means is any neutral card that is equal or less than his regeneration rating will also kick in, and it will give him a card back. So Sport, you will get 1 card at the beginning of this turn. So there's a brief moment of being dazed, but then you're kind of able to, like, shake it off and get yourself back on your feet. So if you want to go ahead and draw that card, you are welcome to. A confused amp wave. I read that as confused damp wave before I realized there was only 1 D. But yeah, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
I may have pulled some of the people I know on the internet and just to at least say hi.
Yay! Thank you very much, Ampwave, for following. Appreciate that. That's awesome. All right, so Armed Forces is the event. I may or may not use that. What I will say is Vitriol is going to, sort of in a very underhanded bid to try and gain freedom, Vitriol is going to spray a glob of acid out at the crowd that is now not that far away, because you guys were both racing away from the site of the grocery store at lightning speed. So you closed on the crowd very, very quickly. And so this arc of, like, acidic, like, caustic material, whatever it is, kind of, like, glints in the street lights and the strobing lights of the police cars. And you kind of are able to catch it in sight, Cavalry, in time that, I mean, with lightning speed, you can probably do something about that, but you might have to take your eyes and your focus off of Vitriol in order to do it. So I will cut back to you and your decision here in a moment. Back inside the grocery store, Sport is kind of, like, getting to his feet. Stasis has oh, you know what? I need to I'll do the bigger card. I'll do that one. So that's going to be there. I will discard that. Still has 1 card of corrosion to go for damage. Yeah, Stranglehold like slams Sport into the ground, and then Sport's emotion control kind of kicks in, and Stranglehold kind of, like, Sport, you feel this, like, this weird tendril, whatever this is. It's not even really a pseudopod. I don't know what the right term for it is, even as a narrator. Sort of, like, goes limp and sort of, like, relaxes and starts to retract. It's this very strange feeling of the thing, like, unwinding around you as it releases and sort of like slithers back into his throat. And there's a very unpleasant sort of gulping sound as it sort of like reseats itself, and he kind of like gives a dismissive, rude, let's be honest, gesture at the two of you and says, this isn't even worth my time. You guys know where the exit is. And he kind of points to the big gaping hole in the window that he smashed with the shelf. And he turns around and he kind of starts walking away and kind of like he turns and glances at something on the shelf and like reaches and like pulls a bag of chips and just kind of rips it open and starts munching on it as he goes. The two of you can respond to that in whatever way you would like, but that's what he's doing for the round. Mads, there is a very large sort of like that weird oily kind of sheened, like when you see oil on the ground, it's got that weird kind of like rainbowy sheen. You see that kind of like arcing through the air coming towards you. It does not look particularly wholesome. The entire crowd is looking a little bit concerned. What would you like to do with this information?
Do I have access to any of my, like, any computers or electronic stuff right now?
So you do have your gadget bag, so there's a possibility you might have something in there.
I have a potentially have a slime-resistant umbrella in my gadget bag.
That is a very specific umbrella. Kind of, but you know what? That's what the gadget bag is for. So I am going to. I'll leave it to you. You can either draw a card from the deck here, like on Roll20, or I can draw it from my physical deck so it doesn't affect the card economy.
Some
people like to draw their own cards. It kind of depends. My wife refuses to let me draw cards for her. She insists that I'm cursed.
You go ahead and draw.
Okay. So the way that Mads's gadget bag equipment works is whenever Mads needs something, she can basically go to her gadget bag to see if she happens to have it on hand. I'm going to pull a card from the deck and look at the aura. It's called an aura reading in the system. It's one of my favorite things. It's just a quick way of determining, does that work without having to necessarily get down to nitty-gritty numbers. So, look at that. It is a positive card. Good old Captain America's never say die attitude. So, Mads does indeed randomly. Does Mads hang out where there's like slime rain on a regular basis? Is this a thing?
She's had an interesting life and has collected interesting things over that life.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm trying to think what. Well, she worked in a government research lab doing like weird shit. So I can imagine almost anything. When she walked out of that situation, she just grabbed a few items with her.
I love the idea that it is standard issue at the lab that you have one of these umbrellas just in case the sprinkler systems go off and they've somehow been compromised or something like that. So yeah, you have a corrosion resistance umbrella at +4. Basically, will let you resist corrosion effects at +4. And so you whip it out and poof, out it goes. Describe the umbrella to me. Is it just like
it's definitely small. It's small, compact. Yeah, standard issue black, compact. Maybe something about the coating on it would be noticeable to somebody that knows things. Like this is a special umbrella for sure. Like it has a very specific and unique niche use, but I'm definitely like the idea of it got stolen out of a research lab somewhere.
Okay. It probably has like property of the U.S. government filed off somewhere on the handle.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. All right, that's good.
If found, please return. Don't call that number. You're gonna die. Black bagged.
Yeah, exactly. You just it's the worst kind of lost and found. Go gadget bag, positive aura, yes. A rain of slugs. Let's not go there. My wife saves slugs whenever it rains, so it would take her all day if it was raining slugs. Not cursed, just GM mojoed. Yeah. I remember some of your tirades that you've gone on before when I've drawn a card for you, so it's okay. I accept my fate. All right, so
I do think that with this though, that she's gonna try to get more involved to like see what's going on. Like this is bad. Like she wants to see what she can do to help the situation now that it seems to be getting a little more out of hand.
Okay. Cavalry, what are you going to be doing? You randomly in the middle of the crowd, you see an umbrella go up and poof. But what would you like to do about the situation?
So I do currently have Vitriol lassoed still, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so since I have 2 hands, I know this is going to end terribly for me because I don't actually have the proficiency to do this, just the powers to do so. Can I try and go around between Vitriol and the crowd and summon a shield of some sort to try and block as much of the crowd as possible?
Yeah, you've got your force shield.
I have the force shield, but I don't have proficiency in shields.
You do not.
Which we did talk about this, because riding a horse with 2 hands up is a little difficult.
It is a little bit difficult. Okay,
so you said I wouldn't have the +4 for shields, but I would still have the shield superpower.
Yes, correct. So I will be benevolent and kind, and I am going to say that instead of using your strength, well, this is not exactly benevolent and kind. It's a little bit benevolent and kind. I'm going to say it's an agility thing. So you don't have a card suitable for it, but your agility is a little bit higher. And I will give you your equestrian skill at half benefit. So it'll give you a +2. So basically you're working at a base of 9 for an agility action to try and block as much of this as you can.
Yeah, I just realized force shield is intellect. That's weird.
So that is when you are trying. So force shield is intellect because you summon it, and you're basically summoning a shield of energy. Pretty much anything that involves summoning or controlling or manipulating energy is an intellect thing. Yeah. But when you're actually trying to use the shield to block something, that is going to be a strength action using shields.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of a weird.
Yeah.
Interaction.
Especially with the flavor of my shields, it's actually like, it's a magical shield, but it's still in the shield position as opposed to like Invisible Woman summoning.
Exactly. If that were the case, it would have an intensity of its own rather than being based on your strength. But because it's a plus a number and not just a solid number, that's the reason it works that way. Yeah.
So I am.
Silver Lion says since you're not putting up a big dome or something. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this system, it's a little bit old. It wasn't necessarily play tested to death. There are a few little things that are up to player and GM interpretation. So we might have to talk through some stuff to figure out exactly how it works. But for now, that'll do the trick.
So it's agility plus half equestrian.
Yep. So that'll be +2. So that'll give you a 9.
Plus card.
Yep.
And do I add the force shield ability too?
So if you're successful in getting in the way of it, then the +3 will be added on top of that as to determine the total amount of defense that you offer to the crowd.
All right, perfect. So that's my 9 plus card, which will be. What's my edge again? It's a 2, so I don't have anything for that.
You don't. Now you can always do something called pushing to the limit. For everybody watching, pushing to the limit is an extra mechanic where you can basically say, I am going to add an extra card to this thing that I am doing to give me an even greater chance of success. The drawback is you don't draw that card back at the end of the turn. You essentially deal that card to yourself in damage as you strain your body, you really push yourself, and you sort of overexert yourself in order to succeed.
If you get that card back when positive aura gets flipped?
Yep, you heal from it as normal. It's just you don't draw it back at the end of the turn like you normally would.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to push it to the limit because this is crowd safety we're dealing with, and I do have Protector as a minor calling. I feel like that's in character for... Well, that pulls up something else, doesn't it?
So actually, if you are... So this is something we haven't really talked about yet. Heroes have callings. Basically, the reason that they are heroes, what they're working on, or like what their motivation is for going out and saving people. In the base game, callings work in a very specific way. I expand that a little bit to basically say, once per story, if you are reacting in a way that is appropriate to your calling in a situation, that you get an extra experience point at the end of the story arc that you can spend on increasing stats and things like that. So I'm going to make a note here that that Cavalry has got +1 XP, and I'll keep track of that as we go for everybody.
Okay.
It hasn't explicitly been called out, so I may have missed it. If I did for somebody previously, please let me know, and we'll make sure we add it to the book.
So I can only add my protector one. Oh wait, so it doesn't add any benefit to my number. It's just something that's like inspiration for later. For
Correct. Yep.
yeah, it's like okay, cool. So yeah, this is a protector thing in character for Cavalry. So, and I'm going to push to the limit. I'm going to use the 7 to 5 for a 12 plus 2 is 14 plus 7 is 21.
21. Ooh, okay, so slightly more than a 20. All right. So we're going to narrate through the end of that. Okay. So I'm going to do an aura reading. Actually, no, you know what? I'm not going to do an aura reading. I'm going to look at Vitriol's stats, because that's more appropriate here. We have 8. And escape artistry. Okay. So we're going to narrate this side of things before we cut back to stasis and sport. So, Mads, you put your umbrella up, and you kind of wait for the patter of the stuff to hit the umbrella, and you feel a couple little drops hit, and there's kind of like this faint kind of like hissing sound, and then there's a little automated voice in your umbrella that says, caustic reagent neutralized, in a very like unnecessary, like government levels of unnecessary
Exposition.
feature. Yeah. But the majority of the stuff doesn't land the way you would have expected it to. Instead, you kind of tilt the umbrella out of the way, and you see cavalry like riding by, sort of across your field of vision, and there is this shimmering like shield on her arm that has caught the majority of this caustic acid, and it's sort of like sitting there sizzling away at nothing before it sort of slumps, like slides off and falls to the ground, sort of without causing any harm. Unfortunately, I'm going to go ahead and play this Doom card for the event, which is Mass Panic. I love Doom cards. I love the events. Despite the fact that Cavalry is clearly like coming in to save the day, or has clearly come in to save the day, all the crowd sees is this wave of acidic spittle like flying at them, and a ghostly,
I forgot about this.
Ghostly pale horse bearing down on them en masse, and they absolutely lose their collective shit. They start screaming, they start running in every direction. There are a couple of cops like working the perimeter to try to kind of keep things from getting too chaotic, but unfortunately there are not enough of them for this crowd of about probably 40 people who are just absolutely trying to get away from the Rider of Death that has clearly come to help them shuffle off their mortal coil.
Excuse me, it's Conquest, thank you very much.
They don't know that.
They don't know that, no. That's the pale horse. It's close enough, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a rider upon a pale horse. So, that is what's happening as everybody absolutely panics and loses it. Mads, I am going to need you to give me a strength action to basically, like, not get swept up and sort of, like, semi-trampled in the crowd. Now, you do have something that you can use here to increase your chances of success if you want to.
Which is
That is your ability boost.
oh right. Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
So
You have 8 points that you have to divide between strength and agility. You have to put at least 1 point in each. Which one would you like to do? How would you like to divide that?
I guess we'll put all in, or 7 into strength and 1 into agility for now. No, let's do 4 and 4. I think moving would probably still be useful, not just strength.
Okay. So you temporarily
That gets me up
have...
to
Sorry, go ahead.
10. That gets me to 10 strength.
4 and 4 will get you a 9 strength and 10 agility.
9.
Yep. You are slightly more agile than you are strong. Although, for a scientist, a 5 strength is pretty good.
Yeah.
Clearly carrying all that equipment yourself in the lab. Okay. So, in that case...
And then do I spend a card to do that? That's...
So, no. What you'll do is you'll spend a card to... and normally your ability boost wouldn't trigger until the end of the turn, but I'm GM fiating this to make it a little bit more cinematic. You will need to spend a card for the strength action to basically resist the this panicked group of people as they sort of surge around you. So I will need a strength action from you to not get knocked over. Silver Lion, yes, 3 to 4 is like average human strength.
Yeah, I'm going to spend my 6 of Doom card, mostly because I want to give you a Doom card.
Ooh, it's Betray. Okay. Yeah, I like this. I'm happy with this.
I mean, I love it when things go wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the worst that could happen, you know?
What's the worst that could happen? I tell my wife that every time we play board games together. She always gets upset. I don't know why. All right, so go ahead and set your 6 of Doom right over here for me, if you would, please. And then that is going to give you a 6 plus a 9 is going to be a 15, which will be... It's a crowd. You know, let's go ahead and... Oh. Okay.
So a smarter player would have tried to make sure I had 16 strength for that, right? Instead of splitting it 4 and 4, because I'm trying to do multiples of 4. Just learning the game as we go.
Yeah. Generally speaking, multiples of 4 is the way you want to do that, because each threshold of difficulty is levels of 4. But that's just the base level. That's not counting whatever ability score the opponent might have if you're being opposed by somebody. In this case, it's a crowd of people, so I just went ahead and drew a card, and I'm just kind of applying that, based on my discretion. You can totally trust me. Don't worry about it. Having said that, you find yourself even like having like kind of set yourself and use this newfound ability to kind of like make yourself stronger or whatever. You find yourself barely kind of keeping your feet as this crowd of panicked people like surges around you and pushes and shoves, and a couple people get kind of like body checked into you. Luckily, you decided to increase your agility as well, so like you're kind of able to use a little bit of footwork to move out of the way of some of the problem players. By the end of it, you are definitely kind of like a little bit disoriented and thrown off, but you haven't taken any damage and you've managed to keep your feet. You're just kind of like a little bit winded and frazzled. You're not sure where your umbrella went, but it got lost somewhere in the crowd.
Okay.
And we're going to cut back to Stasis, Stranglehold, and Sport, but before we get into the action there, I've realized it's probably time for us to take a little bit of a break. Always good to do these things and get into the habit of it, because my brain has a tendency to forget little things like this. So I'm going to enforce it myself. We're going to take a break. Let's do not quite a 10-minute break. It's 7:12 p.m. here where I am. Let's go until 7:20, so it'll basically be an 8-minute break. Enough time to stretch legs, grab drinks, etc., etc. But yeah, stick around if you're at home watching. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back in about 8 minutes or so.